continue with the spinal cord. So we were doing the applied anatomy of the lateral column. Another influence of the applied anatomy of the lateral column that we were doing the corticospinal is the poliomyelitis. Now polio is a disease caused by a virus, and this virus is very fond of destroying the ventral horn of the spinal cord. As corticospinal fibers, they come to the ventral horn cells from where the motor nerve of the 31 pairs of the spinal nerve arises. So after the destruction of the anterior horn cells of the ventral horn, the muscle supplied by these nerves will be paralyzed. And polio, it mainly affects the sciatic nerve, which is the thickest nerve of the body, and because of the involvement of the sciatic nerve, the muscle supplied by it, that is all the muscles, that is the hamstring and muscles of the three compartments of the leg, they undergo lower motor neuron type of the paralysis. So muscles becomes atrophied and thin, and wasting of the muscle is there. So polio is the mainly affecting the ventral horn cells, which are directly connected to the corticospinal descending tracts. Another disease related is the amyotropic lateral sclerosis. So in this disease, what happens? The lateral column fibers, they are destroyed, and this lead to the contralateral hemiplegia because of the involvement of the corticospinal tract. Plus, due to the involvement of the spinocerebellar fibers, so there will be ataxia will be there. So this is how we finish with the applied anatomy related to the corticospinal tract. Now other tract left in the lateral column is the rubrospinal tract. As the name suggests, the rubrospinal tract is also the descending tract. Like the corticospinal. And this descending tract is now also related to the functionally motor function. And regarding its course, should start from the rubro means red nucleus. So red nucleus lies at the level of the midbrain, at the level of superior colliculus. And it is called red nucleus because the neurons, which are multipolar. So multipolar neurons of the red nucleus, they contain iron pigment. And because of the iron pigment, the cytoplasm is a red color. And this is called the red nucleus. Now this red nucleus, situated in the upper part of the midbrain, it receives the cortico-rubral fibers. So cortico-rubral fibers, they are present in the posterior horn of the internal capsule. As we make the posterior horn of the internal capsule, with the head of caudate nucleus and the thalamus, and the lentiform nucleus laterally, so here we make the cortico-rubral tract. So cortico means it starts from the cerebral cortex, from the sensory motor area, of the cerebral cortex, and the fiber they descend with the corona radiata and they relay in the red nucleus, which is present below the thalamus, that is in the midbrain. So it means red nucleus is having the influenced by the sensory motor area functions of the conscious level of the brain, that is the cerebrum. Then from this red nucleus, this rubrospinal tract start, which descend down and lies in the lateral column of the spinal cord. Near the corticospinal tract. So sometime in the exam comes, draw and label the transverse section of the spinal cord. Then you have to make this diagram with all the columns containing various type of the tracts. For example, this is the posterior spinocerebellar. This is the anterior spinocerebellar. Then we make the lateral spinothalamic. Then we make the anterior spinothalamic. That we have done this much of it. Then we have also done this is lateral corticospinal tract. So just near here, anterior to the corticospinal, here lies the rubrospinal tract. So the fibers descending of the rubrospinal tract, they influence the anterior horn cells. Of the ventral horn, from where the motor nerve is arising. So with the help of interneurons, the fibers of the rubrospinal tract, they relay in the ventral horn cell, mainly in the anterolateral group of the cells of the ventral horn, anterolateral group. and these fibers, when they relay in the motor horn, so they are influencing the motor activity of the 31 spinal nerves, which are going to the muscles of the human body, the skeletal muscles of the body. But this rubrospinal tract is only rudimentary in the humans, and it is only present in the upper cervical region, not whole of the spinal cord, but only the upper cervical region, and that is up to third cervical segment. And from here they go to the muscles of the body with the C3 nerve. And because of the C3 nerve, they are only confined in the upper region of the cervical region, and their main function is the skilled movement of the fingers of the hand, skilled movements. Because they are facilitatory to the flexors, but they are inhibitory to the extensor muscles. So they are also motor in function. In the lateral column, other tracts which are present is one more. Is the spinotactal. It is the spinotactal. So spinotactal, it lies also in the lateral column, and as the name suggests, spinotactal, it means it is going from the spinal cord to the tectum of the midbrain. Up to the level of the superior colliculus. So they go from below upward, so they are ascending. If they are ascending, it means they are concerned with some sensations. So they mainly carry the proprioceptive sensation. Proprioceptive sensations. And as they are going to the superior colliculus, from the superior colliculus, the fibers, they go up into the cerebral cortex. And also to the thalamus. And they are concerned with they are functionally, they are concerned with the audio-visual reflex. Audio-visual reflex. And what is audio-visual reflex? So, if there is a sudden noise is there or sudden bright light is there, then our head and neck, they automatically move in that direction. So movement of the head and neck towards the source of the sound and the vision, light. So this tract is incorporated with the superior colliculus. Beside this, another tract which is present in the lateral column is the one is lateral, other is medial to ventral horn is the lateral and medial spino-reticular tract. So sixth tract present in the lateral column is the spino-reticular. So name is suggestive, it starts from the spinal cord and it goes to the reticular formation of the brain stem. Reticular formation of the brain stem. And as we know, the reticular formation of the brain stem is concerned with the autonomic nervous system. So this spino-reticular is concerned with the autonomic nervous system. So this is how we finish with the reticulo, the lateral column, tracts. The last one is the spino-olivary also. Spino-olivary tract. This spino-olivary tract means spinal cord to the olivary nucleus. So these fibers of the spino-olivary tract, they are mainly present in the posterior horn, near the posterior horn, medially near the base, and they receive the neurons from the cells of the posterior horn. And the few cells, tract fibers, they also ascend with the dorsal column also. Dorsal column or posterior column. So this is the spino-olivary. So these ascending fibers of spino-olivary, they ascend upward and they end into inferior olivary nucleus, of the medulla, and then dorsal, and accessory olivary nucleus. And because of the olivary nucleus, they are functionally related to the coordination of the muscular movements, coordination of voluntary muscular movements. Because we know the olivary nucleus, they are also connected to cerebellum. So they are also concerned with the coordination of the right and left side of the movement. So they are indirectly connected to the posture or equilibrium maintenance. Because of their cerebellum. Because if the olivary nucleus is connected to cerebellum as the olivocerebellar fibers or par-olivocerebellar fibers, and then cerebellum is again connected to the olivary nucleus as the cerebello-olivary fibers. So it has got a very much influence of the cerebellum with it. So these 7 type of the fibers, they are present in the lateral column, you must know. Now the last part of the white funiculus or the white column is of the spinal cord. Left is this much area. This is the anterior column of the white matter. The third is, last one is the anterior column or funiculus of the spinal cord. So in the anterior column, the fibers, they are, one is the anterior corticospinal tract. And this we have already done with the pyramidal decussation, that 85% they cross to form the lateral corticospinal tract situated in the lateral column. The rest of the 15% uncrossed fibers, they descend downward and they are present on either side of the anterior median fissure of the spinal cord. So this is the anterior corticospinal uncrossed 15% fibers, they are present here in the anterior column. So all of the descending fibers which are other than the corticospinal, they are called the extrapyramidal fibers or system. So these fibers, they are also descending, so they are also motor, and they also relay in the ventral horn cells, and then they go to the motor nerve of the 31 pairs of spinal nerves, ending into some muscles of the body. Another tract which is present in the anterior column is the vestibulo spinal tract. This is also we have already done. Now we see where it is lying in the spinal cord. So it lies in the anterior-most peripheral part. It is a very large tract out of all the tracts in the anterior horn, anterior funiculus. So that area is there, big one. So this is the vestibulospinal tract. So vestibulospinal tract, it starts from the vestibular nuclear complex. And the vestibular nuclear complex, we know it lies in the vestibular area of the pons and medulla. In the floor of fourth ventricle we have seen 4 nuclei are present. Out of the 4, it arises from the dorsal nucleus of the vestibular. So more are the nuclei, more are the fibers. That's why this area of the vestibulospinal tract is bigger. You have to make the big. Which is small, you have to make the diagram small. Which is big. So this is very carefully you should know how to draw this diagram, because this diagram will come in many answers you have to write. So practice this diagram correctly, label each and every tract, see the size also. Size is very important. So this vestibulospinal tract is concerned with the, again, equilibrium maintenance. We have seen that how it is connected to the cerebellum. So we have already done it with the spinocerebellar fibers. So nothing to do the repetition again. The third tract which is present here in the anterior funiculus, medial to the vestibulospinal, here is a small tract is present here. This is the tectospinal tract. So again the name suggests tectospinal. So it starts from the tectum of the midbrain at the level of the superior colliculus. At the level of the superior colliculus. And this tract is also concerned with the motor activity. So it also is one of the extrapyramidal type of the tract. Another tract is olivospinal tract. So it is also concerned with the, start from the inferior olivary nucleus of the medulla, and the fibers they are descending, and this olivospinal tract, it lies lateral to the vestibulospinal tract. Another tract is the reticulospinal tract. It has got 2 parts, lateral and medial. So the medial is present near the ventral horn of the spinal cord. And as it is connected, coming the descending fibers from the reticular formation of the brain stem, so they are also concerned with the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system, so they also influences the ventral horn cells, because the fibers they relay in the ventral horn cells. So these are the tracts you must know how to label and how to make in the posterior, lateral and the anterior white matter of the spinal cord, with their functions, whether they are ascending or descending. So this is how we have to finish with the